I never thought watching my parents panic over a business contract would bring me such satisfaction. But there I was, sitting in the conference room of Rodriguez Construction and Development, watching my father's face drain of color as he read the client name on the biggest deal of his career. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The company that could save his struggling business from bankruptcy was mine. And he had no idea that his disappointing daughter, the one he'd treated like unpaid labor for 23 years, was about to become his boss. What happened next didn't just change our family dynamic forever. It exposed 20 years of lies, favoritism, and a truth so shocking that it would make my golden child siblings question everything they thought they knew about success and sacrifice. The sound of power tools and heavy machinery had been the soundtrack of my childhood, echoing from the Rodriguez construction yard that sat adjacent to our family home in Scottsdale. Most kids grew up with lullabies. I grew up with the rumble of cement mixers and the sharp crack of nail guns. By the time I was 8 years old, I could distinguish between different drill bits by sound alone, and knew the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver better than I knew my multiplication tables. My father, Robert Rodriguez, had built Rodriguez Construction and Development from nothing more than a pickup truck and a toolbox when he was 22. By the time I was born, it had grown into one of Phoenix's most respected mid-sized construction companies, specializing in commercial buildings and residential developments across the Arizona desert. The business wasn't just what my father did, it was who he was, woven into his identity so completely that I'm not sure he could have existed without it. "Lexi, get over here and help me organize these invoices," my father called from his cluttered office one Thursday afternoon when I was 12. It was 3:30, which meant I had exactly 15 minutes between getting off the school bus and being expected to report for duty at the family business. My backpack hit the floor of his office with a dull thud. Homework forgotten once. Again. Tyler, my older brother by 3 years, was nowhere to be seen. At 15, he was at football practice, which my parents considered far more important than learning the family business. Building character, my mother Linda would say, as if spending hours catching passes somehow prepared him better for life than understanding profit margins and client relations. Madison, my younger sister by 2 years, was at her dance lessons. Another activity deemed essential for her development while I sorted through vendor receipts and learned to read construction blueprints. "These client files are a mess," I observed, noting how invoices were mixed with contracts and payment schedules scattered throughout multiple folders. Even at 12, I could see the inefficiency that plagued my father's record-keeping system. "That's why I need you to fix them," Robert replied without looking up from his computer screen. "You've got a good head for details. Tyler's mind is too scattered for this kind of work, and Madison—" He trailed off with a wave of his hand that suggested my 10-year-old sister was too delicate for such mundane tasks. What my father called having a good head for details, I was beginning to understand was simply being the child who was available and willing to work for free. Tyler's time was protected for sports and social activities. Madison's schedule was carefully curated around dance, art classes, and playdates. But my time? My time belonged to Rodriguez Construction, whether I wanted it to or not. The pattern had established itself so gradually that I barely noticed it happening. At 7, I was helping by sorting screws and nails in the warehouse. By 9, I was filing paperwork and answering phones after school. At 11, I was learning to read architectural plans and calculating material costs. Each year brought new responsibilities, always framed as opportunities to learn the family business, but never extending the same opportunities to my siblings. "Why doesn't Tyler have to help with this?" I asked one evening as I stayed late, to finish entering a week's worth of timesheets into the computer system my father had finally upgraded to. "Tyler's got practice, then homework," my mother replied from the doorway of the office. "Besides, you're so much better at this kind of thing. Tyler's strengths are different." Tyler's strengths, apparently, included throwing a football and charming teachers into extending deadlines for assignments he'd forgotten about. Madison's strengths involved spinning in tutus and convincing our parents that she needed a new leotard for every recital. My strengths were limited to being useful to the family business and asking fewer questions about fairness. The summer I turned 13 marked a significant shift in my role within the company. While Tyler spent his days at summer football camps and Madison attended dance intensives, I became a full-time employee of Rodriguez Construction, though without the benefit of an actual paycheck. My days began at 7 in the morning, checking in on job sites with my father, and ended well past 6 in the evening, updating project schedules and preparing materials lists for the following day. "You're learning valuable skills," Robert would say whenever I expressed fatigue or frustration. "Tyler and Madison will have plenty of time to learn the business later. Right now, you're getting a head start that will serve you well." The head start felt more like a head start toward burnout. While my friends spent summer vacation at pools and summer camps, I spent it learning about permits and inspections, supply chain management, and client relations. I knew how to negotiate with suppliers before I knew how to drive. I understood profit margins before I understood algebra. The inequality became more glaring as we all entered high school. Tyler, now a senior, was the star quarterback whose every game was attended by both parents, his jersey number prominently displayed on our mother's car window. His college applications were discussed at family dinners with the reverence typically reserved for religious ceremonies. Full scholarships to major universities were not just expected, but assumed. Madison, a sophomore, had evolved into the family's artistic star. Her dance recitals were elaborate affairs requiring costume fittings, professional photography, and weekend trips to competitions across Arizona. Her bedroom walls were covered with ribbons and trophies, each achievement celebrated, with family dinners at expensive restaurants and social media posts showcasing our parents' pride. My achievements were measured differently. When I successfully negotiated a 10% discount with a concrete supplier, saving the company thousands of dollars, my reward was being given more complex negotiations to handle. When I identified an error in an architectural plan that would have cost the company significantly in change orders, my recognition was additional responsibility for plan reviews. Success in the Rodriguez family, I was learning, was inversely correlated with acknowledgement when your name was Lexi. The college conversation in our household was particularly revealing. Tyler's options were discussed with the enthusiasm of planning a royal wedding. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Arizona State University had offered him a full ride for football, while Northern Arizona University was courting him for their business program. The merits of each choice were debated over family dinners, with both parents offering advice and opinions about which path would best serve his future. Madison's artistic pursuits were equally celebrated. Applications to performing arts schools were researched meticulously, with my parents attending college fairs and researching programs across the country. The possibility of out-of-state tuition was discussed as an investment in her talent, a necessary expense for nurturing her gifts. When the subject of my college plans arose, usually as an afterthought during these family discussions, the tone shifted dramatically. "Well, Lexi already knows the family business better than most people who've worked in construction for years," Robert would say. "She might not even need college. She could step right into a management role here." The assumption that I would simply remain at Rodriguez Construction forever, that my future was predetermined by my usefulness to the family business, became increasingly suffocating. While Tyler and Madison were encouraged to explore their interests and pursue their dreams, my dreams were expected to align perfectly with the company's needs. But I had dreams that extended far beyond construction schedules and client meetings. During the long hours spent in the office, I had discovered something that fascinated me more than architectural plans and building permits: technology. The Computer systems my father relied on were antiquated and inefficient. The software he used for project management was clunky and limited. I began spending my lunch breaks researching better solutions, teaching myself programming languages through online tutorials, and imagining how technology could revolutionize an industry that still relied heavily on paper trails and handshake agreements. My parents' reaction to my growing interest in technology was dismissive at best. When I mentioned wanting to study computer science in college, my father laughed. "Why would you want to sit in front of a computer all day when you could be building something real?" he asked. "Construction is about creating something that lasts, something you can see and touch. This tech stuff is just a phase." My mother's response was more subtle but equally discouraging. "Technology is so competitive, honey, and there aren't many women in that field. Wouldn't you be more comfortable staying with what you know? You're already so good at the business side of construction." The message was clear. My value lay in my established usefulness to the family company, not in any independent aspirations I might harbor. Tyler could pursue sports and business because those paths were deemed worthy of a Rodriguez. Madison could chase artistic dreams because creativity was an acceptable pursuit for the family's princess. But my desire to explore technology was seen as an abandonment of family loyalty and practical sense. As my senior year of high school approached, the pressure to commit to a future at Rodriguez Construction intensified. College applications for Tyler and Madison were elaborate affairs, involving campus visits, essay writing assistance, and careful consideration of multiple options. My college application process consisted of a single form to Arizona State University's business program, filled out one evening in my father's office between updating client files and preparing next day schedules. "Business is practical," Robert explained as he reviewed my application. "You can minor in something computer-related if you want, but a business degree will serve you well here at the company. We can even work out a part-time schedule so you can keep helping with operations while you're in school." The part-time schedule he proposed would have me working 30 hours a week while carrying a full course load, essentially guaranteeing that I would have no time for typical college experiences like making friends, joining clubs, or exploring internship opportunities outside the family business. Tyler's college experience would include football, fraternity, life, and the freedom to focus entirely on his studies. Madison's would feature performance opportunities, artistic development, and the luxury of exploring her interests without financial pressure. Mine would be an extension of the working life. I'd already been living since middle school. That night, sitting in my childhood bedroom surrounded by construction industry magazines and project binders that had somehow migrated from the office, I made a decision that would change everything. I would apply to ASU's computer science program on my own, without my parents' knowledge or support. I would find a way to finance my education independently, even if it meant working multiple jobs and taking out student loans. And most importantly, I would begin building something of my own, something that existed entirely outside the sphere of Rodriguez Construction and my family's expectations. The plan forming in my mind was audacious in its simplicity. I would continue working for the family business throughout high school, learning everything I could about construction, project management, and client relations. But I would also begin developing the technological solutions I believed the industry needed, starting with software that could streamline the very processes I spent my days managing manually. By the time I graduated college, I would have both the industry knowledge and the technical skills to create something revolutionary. What I didn't yet realize was that this decision to forge my own path would ultimately lead to a confrontation that would expose not just my parents' favoritism, but a web of family secrets and financial troubles that would threaten everything the Rodriguez name had built over 3 generations. Sometimes the most radical act is simply refusing to accept the limitations others place on your life. And sometimes that refusal creates consequences no one could have predicted. As I researched computer science programs and financial aid options late into the night, the sound of the construction yard outside my window served as both a reminder of where I came from and motivation for where I was determined to go. The machinery that had shaped my childhood would not define my future. I was about to begin building something entirely my own, even if it meant disappointing the people who had never bothered to ask what I actually wanted to build. The rejection letter from my father arrived exactly 3 weeks after I had secretly submitted my application to Arizona State University's computer science program. I found it lying on my desk in the office one Thursday afternoon, opened and obviously read, the university letterhead visible through the torn envelope. "We need to talk," Robert said from the doorway, his expression a mixture of disappointment and barely controlled anger. In his hand, he held my acceptance letter to the computer science program, along with financial aid documents I had carefully hidden in my bedroom. My heart sank as I realized my parents had been going through my personal belongings. The privacy I thought I had carefully maintained was an illusion, and now my secret plans lay exposed across my father's desk like evidence in a criminal trial. "I thought we had agreed you would pursue business," he continued, stepping into the office and closing the door behind him. "Computer science? What exactly are you thinking, Lexi? This family has invested too much in your education about this industry for you to throw it away on some fantasy about programming." The word fantasy stung more than I expected. For months, I had been developing software solutions in my spare time, creating programs that could automate many of the tedious tasks that consumed my days at Rodriguez Construction. What I saw as innovation, my father dismissed as childish dreaming. "It's not a fantasy, Dad," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've been learning programming languages, and I think I can create tools that would actually help the construction industry. Technology could revolutionize how we manage projects, track expenses, coordinate with subcontractors." "Enough," Robert interrupted, raising his hand to silence me. "You've been spending too much time on computers and not enough time learning. What really matters? Construction is about relationships, about trust, about understanding how things actually get built. You can't learn that from a screen." Linda appeared in the doorway, her expression softer but equally concerned. "Honey, we're just worried about you making a mistake that could affect your entire future. The construction industry is what you know what you're good at. Why risk starting over in something so uncertain?" The irony was overwhelming. Tyler was being encouraged to risk everything on a football scholarship, betting his future on his athletic ability and hoping injuries wouldn't derail his dreams. Madison was pursuing performance art, one of the most competitive and uncertain career paths imaginable. But my interest in technology, a rapidly growing field with virtually unlimited opportunities, was considered too risky to pursue. "Besides," Robert added, returning to his desk and shuffling through some contracts, "we've been discussing your role here after high school, and we've decided to offer you something special. How would you feel about becoming our first female project manager? You'd be overseeing entire construction sites, managing crews, interfacing directly with clients. It's a level of responsibility we've never given someone your age." The offer should have felt like recognition, like finally being acknowledged for the years of unpaid labor I had contributed to the family business. Instead, it felt like a cage disguised as a promotion. Project manager at Rodriguez Construction wasn't a reward. It was a way to ensure I never left the family orbit. "What about college?" I asked, though I suspected I already knew the answer. "You can take business classes part-time," Linda suggested. "Maybe some evening courses or online programs. That way you can continue building your experience here while getting the degree. It's the best of both worlds." The best of both worlds for everyone except me. Tyler would get 4 years of college focused entirely on his education and social development. Madison would have the freedom to explore her artistic interests without the burden of family business obligations. I would get the privilege of working full-time while struggling through part-time classes, forever tethered to Rodriguez construction by financial necessity and family expectation. I need some time to think about this, I said, gathering my things to leave the office. Don't take too long, Robert warned. The spring construction season is starting soon, and we need to know if we can count on you. Tyler will be going to college in the fall, and Madison is still too young to handle real responsibility. You're the only one who can step up right now. That phrase, the only one who can step up, followed me home and echoed in my thoughts for days. Not the most qualified or the most interested, but simply the only one available. My value to the family continued to be measured by my utility rather than my potential. The next few weeks brought increased pressure from multiple directions. My parents began scheduling meetings with clients specifically to showcase my knowledge and capabilities, introducing me as the future of Rodriguez construction with a pride that felt more possessive than supportive. They arranged tours of job sites where I would demonstrate my understanding of project timelines and quality control, treating me like a prize show animal performing for approval. Tyler, meanwhile, was being celebrated for his acceptance to Arizona State University on a full football scholarship. Family dinners became strategy sessions about his athletic career, with discussions of training regimens, academic requirements, and the possibility of professional football opportunities after college. The contrast between his celebrated departure and my expected entrapment became increasingly difficult to ignore. Madison's artistic achievements were reaching new heights as well. She had been accepted to a prestigious summer intensive program for young dancers, an expensive opportunity that my parents embraced without question. Her bedroom walls continued to accumulate ribbons and certificates, each one photographed and shared on social media with captions about family pride and supporting your children's dreams. My own dreams were becoming an increasingly sensitive topic in family conversations. Any mention of technology or computer science was met with immediate redirection toward construction-related subjects. When I tried to discuss innovative building techniques I had researched online, my father would acknowledge the information briefly before steering the conversation back to traditional methods and proven approaches. The breaking point came during a family dinner in early March, when Tyler announced that he had been invited to attend an exclusive quarterback camp in California over spring break. The camp cost $3,000, a significant expense that my parents approved without hesitation. "This is an incredible opportunity," Linda gushed, already making plans for the travel arrangements. "The coaches there work with college and professional players. Think of the connections Tyler will make." Madison, not to be outdone, mentioned that her dance instructor had recommended an additional private coaching session to prepare for upcoming auditions. Another $1,000 expense that was immediately approved with enthusiasm about investing in her artistic development. "What about you, Lexi?" Tyler asked, seemingly oblivious to the family dynamics that had shaped our entire childhood. "Any spring break plans?" The question hung in the air, highlighting the absurdity of the situation. Spring break for me meant the same thing as every other week, reporting to Rodriguez Construction, managing schedules, and handling whatever tasks needed attention while my siblings pursued their interests. "Actually," I said, making a decision, that surprised even me. I was thinking about attending a technology conference in San Diego. There's a program specifically designed for high school students interested in computer science and entrepreneurship. The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler and Madison exchanged glances, clearly sensing the tension that had suddenly filled the dining room. Robert set down his fork with deliberate precision, his expression hardening into the disapproving look I had come to know well. "A technology conference?" he repeated, as if I had suggested attending a conference on professional gambling or exotic dancing. "Lexi, we've discussed this. You need to focus on practical skills, not waste time on these computer fantasies." "It's not a waste of time," I replied, my voice rising despite my efforts to remain calm. "Technology is transforming every industry, including construction. Companies that don't adapt are going to be left behind. Left behind? Robert's laugh was harsh and dismissive. Rodriguez Construction has been successful for over 20 years, without needing computers to tell us how to build buildings. What we need is people who understand the real world, not kids who think they can solve everything with gadgets. Linda placed a calming hand on her husband's arm before turning to me with forced patience. Honey, we understand you're interested in computers, but you have to be realistic about your future. Technology is fine as a hobby, but construction is your career. That's where your expertise is, where your opportunities are. The word expertise rankled. My expertise in construction had been developed through years of unpaid labor, not genuine choice or passion. I knew the industry because I had been conscripted into knowing it, not because it represented my dreams or aspirations. Tyler gets to pursue football even though most players never make it professional, I pointed out. Madison gets to chase, dance even though performing arts careers are incredibly competitive. Why is my interest in technology considered more risky than their pursuits? The question exposed the fundamental inequality that had shaped our family dynamic for years, and the uncomfortable silence that followed suggested that even Tyler and Madison were beginning to recognize the disparity in how our dreams were valued. Because, Robert said finally, his voice carrying the weight of paternal authority, Tyler and Madison have backup plans. Tyler's getting a business degree along with his football scholarship. Madison's artistic training is developing skills that transfer to other areas. Your computer interests are taking you away from something concrete and proven toward something unpredictable and uncertain. The logic was fundamentally flawed, but arguing further seemed pointless. In my parents' minds, my value lay in my existing usefulness to the family business, not in any potential I might develop independently. Tyler and Madison were investments in the future. I was an asset to be preserved and utilized. That night, I sat in my room researching the technology conference in San Diego, calculating costs and considering my options. The registration fee was $400, a fraction of what my parents had approved for Tyler's quarterback camp. But I knew asking for their financial support would result in another lecture about practical choices and family loyalty. Instead, I began liquidating small possessions, selling textbooks, electronics, and clothes online to raise the money independently. If my parents wouldn't support my interests, I would support them myself, even if it meant sacrificing other things I valued. The process of secretly planning my attendance at the conference felt like preparing for an act of rebellion. Every dollar I earned toward the registration fee felt like a small victory against the limitations my family had placed on my future. Every hour I spent researching the conference speakers and workshop topics felt like reclaiming my right to make my own choices about my education and career. But the secrecy also felt lonely and isolating. While Tyler and Madison received family support and encouragement for their pursuits, I was forced to pursue my interests in the shadows, always careful not to reveal too much about my plans or ambitions. The excitement I felt about technology and programming had no outlet in family conversations, no opportunity for shared enthusiasm or collaborative planning. The deadline for conference registration was approaching rapidly, and I was still $50 short of the fee when Marcus Thompson changed everything. Marcus was a senior at my high school who had started a small web design business from his bedroom, creating websites for local restaurants and small businesses. His success had caught my attention, and I had been quietly following his work through social media and word-of-mouth recommendations. "I heard you know something about construction," Marcus said, approaching me after our shared calculus class one Tuesday afternoon. "I've got a potential client who needs someone who understands the industry. Would you be interested in helping with a project?" The project turned out to be a website for a mid-sized construction company in Tempe that wanted to modernize their online presence and develop better systems for client communication. My knowledge of construction processes, combined with Marcus's technical skills, proved to be exactly what the client needed. Working with Marcus opened my eyes to possibilities I had never considered. Technology wasn't separate from construction. It could enhance and revolutionize the industry in ways my father had never imagined. Project management software could coordinate complex schedules more efficiently than paper systems. Communication. Platforms could keep clients informed and engaged throughout the building process. Digital documentation could eliminate the filing nightmares that plagued my father's office. Most importantly, the collaboration with Marcus proved that my construction knowledge had value outside the family business. The expertise I had developed through years of unpaid labor at Rodriguez Construction wasn't just useful to my father. It was valuable to other companies and entrepreneurs who understood the potential for innovation in traditional industries. The payment from our first project was enough to cover my conference registration with money left over. But more than the financial benefit, the experience had given me something invaluable. Proof that my dreams about technology and construction weren't fantasy, but viable possibilities with real-world applications. As I submitted my registration for the San Diego Technology Conference, I felt like I was taking the first concrete step toward a future that belonged entirely to me. My parents might not understand or support my interests, but I was no longer dependent on their approval to pursue them. The pressure they had applied to keep me within the family business had inadvertently pushed me to develop the independence and resourcefulness I would need to succeed outside their influence. What I didn't yet realize was that this growing independence would soon trigger events that would force my family to confront not just their treatment of me, but the fundamental assumptions about success, loyalty, and worth that had guided their decisions for decades. Sometimes the pressure designed to keep you in place becomes the force that propels you towards something greater than anyone imagined possible. The San Diego Technology Conference exceeded every expectation I had harbored during those weeks of secret planning and financial sacrifice. Walking through the convention center filled with innovative displays, meeting entrepreneurs who had built successful companies from dorm rooms and garages, listening to speakers who described technology as the great equalizer that could transform any industry, it felt like discovering a world where my dreams weren't just valid, but essential. I attended workshops on mobile app development, artificial intelligence applications for traditional industries, and entrepreneurship strategies for young innovators. Each session reinforced my growing conviction that construction companies were operating decades behind their potential, relying on inefficient systems that technology could revolutionize overnight. The most transformative moment came during a presentation by a woman named Jessica Park, who had developed software that optimized supply chain management for manufacturing companies. As she described how her platform had reduced costs by 30% while improving delivery times and quality control, I could envision similar applications for construction project management. Everything my father struggled with, coordinating subcontractors, tracking material deliveries, managing client communications, could be streamlined through intelligent software design. During the networking sessions, I met other high school students who were already developing prototypes, applying for patents, and receiving investment interest for their ideas. Their enthusiasm was infectious, and their success was proof that age and experience mattered less than innovation and determination. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere, surrounded by people who valued creativity and problem-solving over conformity and tradition. The conference concluded with a pitch competition where young entrepreneurs presented their business concepts to a panel of investors and industry experts. Although I hadn't prepared a formal presentation, listening to the pitches inspired me to begin sketching ideas for the construction management software I had been imagining. The foundation of the concept was already clear in my mind, built from years of observing the inefficiencies that plagued my father's business operations. Returning to Phoenix after the conference felt like traveling backward in time. The energy and possibility I had experienced in San Diego contrasted sharply with the mundane reality of Rodriguez Construction, where the same manual processes and paper-based systems continued to create daily frustrations and missed opportunities. My parents' reaction to my conference attendance was predictably negative, though their disapproval was tempered by curiosity about what I had learned. Robert seemed particularly interested in my observations about project management inefficiencies until he realized that my solutions involved significant technological integration. Those computer systems might work for some industries, he conceded during a tense family dinner conversation. But construction is different. Our clients value personal relationships and proven methods. They're not going to trust their projects to some untested software program. His resistance was becoming increasingly frustrating, especially as I witnessed daily examples of how outdated systems were costing the company time and money. Phone calls were missed because messages were scribbled on scraps of paper and lost. Client communications were delayed because information was buried in filing cabinets rather than accessible through searchable databases. Material orders were duplicated or forgotten because inventory tracking relied on handwritten notes rather than integrated systems. The situation reached a breaking point during the first week of April when Rodriguez Construction faced a crisis that perfectly illustrated the problems I had been trying to address. The Sunset Valley Shopping Complex, a major commercial project that represented nearly 30% of the company's annual revenue, was experiencing significant delays and cost overruns due to coordination failures between subcontractors. The electrical work was behind schedule because the electricians hadn't received updated blueprints reflecting changes made by the plumbing contractors. The flooring installation was delayed because material orders were based on outdated measurements. The painting crew arrived a week early because no one had communicated the revised timeline. Each problem created cascading delays that threatened to push the project completion date beyond the contractual deadline, triggering penalty clauses that could cost Rodriguez Construction hundreds of thousands of dollars. I watched my father spend entire days on the phone, trying to coordinate between various contractors, suppliers, and client representatives. His desk was covered with printed emails, handwritten notes, and revised schedules that contradicted each other. The stress was visible in his increasingly short temper and the late hours he spent at the office trying to salvage the project timeline. "This is exactly what I've been talking about," I said one evening as I helped him organize the chaos of paperwork covering his desk. A project management platform could coordinate all these communications automatically. Subcontractors could receive real-time updates about schedule changes. Material orders could be linked to current specifications. Everyone would have access to the same information simultaneously. Robert looked up from a stack of change orders he was reviewing, his expression mixing exhaustion with irritation. "Lexi, I don't have time for your computer theories right now. I need practical solutions to real problems, not more complications." His dismissal stung particularly sharply because my computer theories were specifically designed to address the real problems consuming his life. The irony was painful. I was offering solutions to the exact challenges threatening his business, but his prejudice against technology prevented him from recognizing the value of what I was proposing. The Sunset Valley crisis deepened over the following weeks, consuming more of the company's resources and threatening relationships with other clients whose projects were being neglected. Linda began working longer hours as well, handling client communications and trying to manage the mounting paperwork that accompanied every change order and delay. Tyler and Madison, meanwhile, continued their usual activities without any expectation that they would help address the family business emergency. Tyler's spring football practices took precedence over everything else, including family dinners where the conversation inevitably focused on the construction crisis. Madison's dance rehearsals for an upcoming recital were treated as untouchable commitments, more important than the financial pressures threatening the family's primary source of income. Only my schedule was considered flexible enough to accommodate the extra hours needed to manage the crisis. The breaking point arrived on a Thursday evening in late April when my father announced that I would need to miss my high school graduation ceremony to attend a crucial client meeting. The Sunset Valley project had generated complaints that threatened Rodriguez Construction's reputation with other potential clients. and Robert wanted me present to demonstrate the company's commitment to customer service and problem resolution. "Graduation is just a ceremony," he explained when I protested. "You're not missing anything important. But this client meeting could determine whether we get future contracts worth millions of dollars. Your presence could make the difference between saving the company's reputation and losing everything we've built." The request represented the final escalation in a pattern that had defined my entire childhood. Tyler's football games were sacred events that commanded family attendance. Madison's dance recitals were precious milestones that required professional photography and celebration dinners. But my high school graduation, the culmination of years of academic achievement while maintaining full-time responsibilities at the family business, was disposable when business needs demanded sacrifice. "I've worked toward this graduation for 4 years," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I've maintained good grades while working more hours here than some of your actual employees. I've earned the right to attend my own graduation ceremony." Linda attempted to mediate, suggesting that perhaps we could schedule the client meeting for a different time. But Robert's response revealed the depth of his expectations for my continued sacrifice. "This is what being part of a family business means, Lexi. Sometimes personal desires have to take a back seat to family responsibilities. Tyler and Madison don't understand these pressures yet, but you do. You've seen how much this company means to our family's future. I'm counting on you to be mature enough to make the right choice." The manipulation was transparent but effective, framing my desire to attend my own graduation as selfishness and immaturity, while positioning my sacrifice as evidence of family loyalty and business understanding. The same pattern that had justified years of unpaid labor was being used to demand that I forfeit one of the most important milestones of my academic career. That night, I sat in my room staring at my graduation cap and gown, symbols of achievement that felt increasingly meaningless within the context of my family's expectations. The technology conference in San Diego had shown me a world where innovation was valued and young people were encouraged to pursue ambitious goals. The contrast with my current situation was stark and increasingly unbearable. The decision I made that night would change everything, though I didn't fully understand the implications at the time. Instead of agreeing to miss my graduation, I chose to attend the ceremony regardless of my father's demands. More importantly, I decided to accelerate the timeline for the construction management software I had been developing with Marcus, using the Sunset Valley Crisis as inspiration for features that could prevent exactly the kinds of coordination failures that were threatening Rodriguez construction. Marcus and I had been meeting secretly for weeks, developing prototypes and testing basic functionalities for our project management platform. What had started as an academic exercise was evolving into something with genuine commercial potential. The software could coordinate scheduling between multiple contractors, track material orders and deliveries, manage client communications through integrated messaging systems, and provide real-time updates to all stakeholders involved in a construction project. "We should call it Meridian," Marcus suggested during one of our late-night development sessions. "Like the navigation lines that help people find their position and direction. The software helps construction projects stay on course." Meridian Tech Solutions was born in that moment, though neither of us fully grasped the significance of what we were creating. We were 2 high school students playing with code in our spare time, motivated more by intellectual curiosity than business ambition. The idea that our project could eventually become a real company, with real clients and real revenue, seemed impossibly distant. The graduation ceremony became a symbol of my growing independence from family expectations. I attended despite my father's disapproval, walking across the stage to receive my diploma while my parents sat in the audience with expressions that mixed pride with resentment. Tyler and Madison cheered enthusiastically, seemingly oblivious to the family tension surrounding the day's events. The client meeting that I had been expected to prioritize over graduation proceeded without my participation, and Rodriguez Construction managed to address their concerns through traditional methods of apology and promised improvements. My absence, which had been framed as potentially catastrophic for the company's future, proved to have no negative impact whatsoever. But the symbolic significance of my choice resonated far beyond the immediate circumstances. For the first time in my life, I had prioritized my own milestone over the family business's demands. I had chosen personal achievement over anticipated family loyalty. The precedent was established, and there would be no returning to the old patterns of automatic sacrifice and assumed availability. Summer arrived with new tensions and expectations. While Tyler prepared for his transition to college with excited discussions about dorm room arrangements and football team integration, and Madison planned an intensive dance camp that would consume most of July, I was expected to work full-time at Rodriguez Construction while taking evening classes toward a business degree that held no interest for me. The arrangement felt increasingly like a trap designed to prevent my escape from the family orbit. Full-time work would leave little time for developing Meridian or exploring other opportunities. Evening classes would ensure that my college experience remained subordinate to business needs. The carefully constructed plan would keep me available and useful while maintaining the illusion that my education and future were being considered. But my parents had underestimated how much the graduation ceremony confrontation had changed my perspective on family loyalty and personal autonomy. They had also failed to recognize that my years of unpaid labor had provided me with valuable skills and industry knowledge that had commercial value beyond Rodriguez Construction. The crisis that was about to unfold would force all of us to confront assumptions about worth, loyalty, and independence that had shaped our family dynamic for decades. Marcus and I spent that summer transforming Meridian from a prototype into a functional platform, working with the intensity of people who understood they were racing against time. Every hour I spent in my father's office managing inefficient systems provided inspiration for features that could automate those processes. Every coordination failure I witnessed became a problem for our software to solve. The irony was delicious and increasingly apparent. While my parents dismissed my technology interests as impractical fantasies, I was developing solutions to the exact problems that plagued their business daily. While they insisted that construction required traditional methods and personal relationships, I was creating tools that could enhance both efficiency and client satisfaction. The gap between their perception and reality was widening daily, setting the stage for a revelation that would shock everyone involved. What my family didn't yet understand was that their disappointing daughter, the one they expected to remain forever grateful for the opportunity to serve the family business, was quietly building something that would eventually eclipse everything Rodriguez Construction had achieved. The pressure they had applied to keep me in place was inadvertently creating the force that would ultimately transform our entire relationship. The call came on a Tuesday morning in September, 3 weeks into my freshman year at Arizona State University. I was sitting in my introduction to computer programming class when my phone vibrated with an urgent message from Marcus. Emergency. Rodriguez Construction is hemorrhaging money. Need to talk immediately. I stepped out of the lecture hall and called him back, my stomach nodding with a mixture of concern and anticipation. Marcus had been monitoring industry news as part of our market research for Meridian Tech Solutions, tracking which construction companies were struggling and might be potential clients for our project management software. "Your dad's company is in serious trouble," Marcus said without preamble. "I've been following their recent projects, and they've lost 3 major contracts in the past month. The Sunset Valley disaster created a domino effect. Other clients are backing out because of reputation concerns." The news hit me harder than I expected. Despite my frustrations with my family's treatment, Rodriguez Construction represented my father's life work and our family's financial security. The thought of the company failing triggered complicated emotions of concern, vindication, and unexpected sadness. "How bad is it?" I asked, though I suspected Marcus's research had uncovered more details than my parents had shared with me. "Bad enough that they're actively seeking emergency funding and looking for strategic partnerships to stay afloat." There are rumors they might have to lay off half their workforce before Christmas. The irony was overwhelming. While I had been developing software specifically designed to solve the coordination and efficiency problems that plagued construction companies, my own family's business was collapsing due to exactly those issues. The solutions I had tried to offer were being implemented as emergency measures by Meridian Tech, while Rodriguez Construction continued to struggle with the manual systems that had contributed to their downfall. That evening, I drove home to find my parents huddled over financial documents in the dining room, their expressions grim as they reviewed bank statements and contract cancellations. The cheerful family dinners of my childhood had been replaced by tense strategy sessions about survival and damage control. "Lexi," Robert said when he noticed me in the doorway, "we need to talk." The conversation that followed revealed the full extent of Rodriguez Construction's financial crisis. The Sunset Valley project had triggered penalty clauses that wiped out most of the company's profits for the year. Subsequent contract cancellations had eliminated the revenue pipeline that normally sustained operations through slower periods. Supplier payments were behind schedule, creating additional penalties and straining relationships that had taken decades to build. "We're going to have to make some difficult decisions," Linda said, her voice carefully controlled. "Cut expenses, reduce staff, maybe sell some equipment to generate cash flow." Robert leaned back in his chair, looking older than I had ever seen him. "I've been in this business for 25 years, and I've never faced anything like this. It's not just about money anymore. Our reputation is damaged. Clients don't trust us to deliver projects on time and on budget." The admission represented a fundamental shift in my father's understanding of the construction industry. For years, he had insisted that personal relationships and traditional methods were sufficient for business success. The crisis had forced him to confront the reality that modern clients expected efficiency and reliability that manual systems couldn't consistently provide. "What about Tyler and Madison?" I asked, concerned about how the financial crisis would affect their education and opportunities. "Tyler's football scholarship covers everything at college," Robert replied, "and Madison's dance programs are too important to interrupt. We'll find a way to maintain their activities." The assumption that my siblings' pursuits would remain protected while the family business collapsed around us was both predictable and infuriating. Even facing potential bankruptcy, my parents prioritized Tyler's athletic development and Madison's artistic training over addressing the fundamental problems threatening our family's livelihood. "Maybe it's time to consider modernizing your operations," I suggested carefully. "Technology solutions that could improve efficiency, reduce coordination errors, enhance client communication." "Lexi," Robert interrupted, his tone carrying familiar dismissiveness. "This isn't the time for your computer fantasies. We need practical solutions to immediate problems, not experimental technology that might work someday." His rejection of technological solutions, even while facing crisis caused partly by the lack of such solutions, crystallized my understanding of how deeply entrenched my parents' resistance to change had become. They would rather risk losing everything than acknowledge that their traditional methods were insufficient for modern business demands. That night, I called Marcus to discuss an idea that had been forming in my mind for weeks. Meridian Tech Solutions had evolved from a high school project into a sophisticated platform with genuine commercial potential. We had developed features that could address exactly the kinds of problems that had destroyed Rodriguez Construction's reputation and financial stability. Perhaps it was time to test our software with real clients facing real challenges. We could approach other construction companies that are struggling with similar issues, I suggested. Offer Meridian as a solution for project coordination and client communication. If we can prove the platform works in practical applications, we might be able to build a sustainable business. Marcus was intrigued by the proposal, though he expressed concern about our ability to compete with established software companies that had significantly more resources and market experience. "We're still just college students working out of our dorm rooms," he pointed out. What makes us think we can succeed where bigger companies have tried and failed? The answer lay in our unique perspective as young innovators who understood both the technological possibilities and the practical realities of construction work. Unlike software developers who designed platforms based on theoretical understanding of construction processes, we had intimate knowledge of how projects actually operated, what problems occurred most frequently, and what solutions would provide the greatest value to struggling companies. Over the following weeks, we refined Meridian's features and began reaching out to mid-sized construction companies throughout Arizona and neighboring states. Our pitch was simple. We could provide project management solutions that would improve efficiency, reduce coordination errors, and enhance client satisfaction for a fraction of the cost charged by established software companies. The response exceeded our most optimistic expectations. Construction companies were desperately seeking affordable solutions to the coordination and communication problems that had become increasingly expensive in a competitive market. Meridian's intuitive interface and construction-specific features addressed exactly the pain points that generic project management software had failed to solve. Our first paying client was Phoenix Commercial Builders, a company facing challenges remarkably similar to those that had devastated Rodriguez Construction. They had experienced significant delays and cost overruns on a major retail development project due to coordination failures between subcontractors and suppliers. Within 2 weeks of implementing Meridian, they had eliminated most communication gaps and were tracking ahead of their revised project timeline. The success with Phoenix Commercial Builders generated referrals to other companies facing similar challenges. Word spread quickly through Arizona's construction community about the young entrepreneurs who had developed software that actually understood the industry's needs. By November, Meridian Tech Solutions had 12 paying clients and a waiting list of companies interested in pilot programs. The financial transformation was remarkable. What had started as a high school project was generating revenue that exceeded my part-time earnings at Rodriguez Construction. Marcus and I were earning enough money to cover our college expenses while building a business that showed genuine potential for significant growth. But the most significant development occurred in early December, when Diana Chen contacted me with information that would change everything. Diana was a family friend who worked as a business consultant, specializing in helping struggling companies identify strategic partnerships and investment opportunities. She had been following the construction industry's adoption of project management technology and had noticed Meridian's growing reputation among Arizona contractors. "I've been hearing interesting things about your software company," Diana said, during a coffee meeting near the ASU campus. Construction companies are talking about Meridian Tech Solutions as the most practical project management platform they've encountered. They're saying it was designed by people who actually understand construction work. I acknowledged that Marcus and I had tried to focus on real-world applications rather than theoretical capabilities, drawing on practical experience to guide our feature development. Diana's next question caught me completely off guard. "Are you aware that Rodriguez Construction is actively seeking technology solutions to address their operational challenges?" she asked. "Your father has been consulting with business advisors about software platforms that might help restore client confidence and improve project efficiency." The revelation was stunning. While Robert had consistently dismissed my suggestions about technology integration, he was secretly exploring exactly the kinds of solutions that Meridian provided. His public resistance to modernization was contradicted by private acknowledgement that traditional methods were insufficient for the company's survival. "He's been meeting with representatives from several major software companies," Diana continued. "But the platforms they're offering are expensive and designed for much larger operations. Rodriguez Construction needs something more affordable and tailored to mid-sized companies." The irony was almost too perfect to believe. My father was desperately seeking the exact solution that I had been developing, but his prejudice against my capabilities and interests had prevented him from recognizing that his daughter might possess exactly what his company needed. Diana's expression grew more serious as she shared additional information she had gathered through her business network. There's something else you should know. Rodriguez Construction's situation is more critical than your parents have probably admitted. They're facing potential bankruptcy within 6 months unless they can demonstrate significant operational improvements and secure new contracts. The timeline was shocking. While I had known the company was struggling, I hadn't realized how close they were to complete financial collapse. Tyler and Madison remained blissfully unaware of the crisis, continuing their college and high school activities without understanding that their family's financial foundation was crumbling. Your parents have been exploring several options, Diana explained. Emergency loans, equipment sales, even the possibility of selling the company to a larger contractor. But what they really need is a way to rebuild their reputation for efficiency and reliability. That's why they're so interested in technology solutions. The conversation with Diana prompted me to research Rodriguez Construction's current situation more thoroughly. Public records revealed contract cancellations, delayed payments, and legal disputes that painted a picture of a company in serious decline. Client reviews mentioned poor communication, missed deadlines, and coordination failures that echoed the problems I had witnessed firsthand during the Sunset Valley crisis. But the research also revealed something else. Rodriguez Construction still had significant assets, valuable client relationships, and decades of industry expertise that could provide the foundation for recovery if operational efficiency could be improved. The company wasn't fundamentally flawed. It was simply using outdated methods that created unnecessary complications and expenses. That night, I called Marcus with a proposal that would test everything we had built with Meridian Tech Solutions. Instead of continuing to approach random companies with our software, what if we targeted the one company we understood better than any other? What if we pitched Meridian directly to Rodriguez Construction, not as Robert and Linda's daughter, seeking family approval, but as a professional technology company offering solutions to a struggling business? Your own family's company? Marcus asked, clearly surprised by the suggestion. Wouldn't that create massive complications if they recognized you? The beauty of the plan was that recognition seemed unlikely. My parents had so completely dismissed my technological capabilities that they would never expect their daughter to be running a successful software company. Diana's information suggested they were actively seeking external solutions, making them potential clients rather than resistant family members. We approached them the same way we've approached every other client, I explained. Professional presentation, proven track record, references from satisfied customers. We let the software sell itself based on its capabilities, not on family relationships. Marcus agreed to the plan, though he insisted on additional preparation to ensure our presentation would be as polished and professional as those offered by established software companies. We spent weeks developing a comprehensive proposal that highlighted Meridian's specific advantages for mid-sized construction companies, including cost comparisons with competing platforms and detailed case studies from our existing clients. The proposal was scheduled for the first week of January, positioned as a potential solution to Rodriguez Construction's operational challenges and reputation problems. Neither Robert nor Linda had any idea that their disappointing daughter was about to walk into their conference room as the CEO of the technology company that might save their business. What they also didn't know was that this presentation would force a reckoning not just with their business practices, but with their fundamental assumptions about worth, capability, and family loyalty. The daughter they had dismissed as impractical and unrealistic was about to demonstrate that she had built something more successful than anything they had achieved, using the industry knowledge they had forced her to acquire and the technological skills they had discouraged her from developing. The irony was perfect, but the consequences would extend far beyond simple vindication. This revelation would transform our family dynamic forever, forcing everyone to confront truths they had carefully avoided for years. The Rodriguez Construction conference room had never looked so intimidating, despite my intimate familiarity, with every detail of its worn carpet and outdated furniture. Sitting across from my parents and their business attorney, James Patterson, I felt the weight of years of dismissal and underestimation crystallizing into this single moment of revelation. Marcus sat beside me in his best suit, our laptops and presentation materials arranged professionally on the polished table. We had rehearsed this pitch dozens of times, but nothing could have prepared me for the surreal experience of presenting to my own family as if they were strangers evaluating our business proposal. Robert shuffled through our company brochures, with the careful attention he reserved for potentially significant contracts. Linda took notes as Marcus explained Meridian's technical capabilities and cost advantages over competing platforms. James Patterson asked detailed questions about implementation timelines and support services, treating us with the professional respect that established vendors typically received. The irony was exquisite. For 20 minutes, I watched my parents engage seriously with business concepts and technological solutions that they had dismissed as fantasy when I had suggested them months earlier. The same efficiency improvements and coordination capabilities that Robert had rejected as impractical were now being evaluated as potential salvation for his struggling company. "Your case studies are impressive," Robert acknowledged, reviewing testimonials from our existing clients. Phoenix commercial builders had similar coordination problems to what we've experienced. Their improvement metrics suggest your platform delivers measurable results. I maintained my professional composure while internally savoring the validation. Phoenix commercial builders had become one of our most successful implementations precisely because their challenges mirrored those I had witnessed at Rodriguez Construction. Every feature of Meridian had been designed to address the specific inefficiencies that had plagued my father's operations for years. Marcus handled the technical demonstration with polished expertise, showing how Meridian could coordinate subcontractor schedules, track material deliveries, manage client communications, and provide real-time project updates through integrated dashboards. The platform's capabilities were impressive enough that even I felt proud of what we had accomplished in such a short time. "The cost structure is significantly more reasonable than what other companies have proposed," Linda observed, comparing our pricing to the expensive enterprise solutions they had been considering. "And the implementation timeline would allow us to begin using the platform on current projects, rather than waiting months for customization." James Patterson asked about our company's background and experience, prompting Marcus to provide carefully prepared responses about our team's expertise and client satisfaction rates. We had anticipated questions about Meridian Tech Solutions' relatively short operating history and had developed strategies to emphasize our results and specialization rather than our company's age. "One thing that sets us apart," I said, speaking for the first time during the presentation, "is our deep understanding of mid-sized construction operations. Many software companies design platforms based on theoretical knowledge of the industry. Our team has practical experience with the daily challenges that construction companies actually face." Robert nodded approvingly, clearly impressed by what he interpreted as industry insight from a young but knowledgeable entrepreneur. The compliment felt particularly satisfying, given that my practical experience had been acquired through years of unpaid labor at his own company, knowledge he had never valued when it came from his daughter, rather than an external consultant. The presentation concluded with our formal proposal, a 6-month pilot program that would implement Meridian on 2 of Rodriguez Construction's upcoming projects, with success measured by improved coordination efficiency, reduced change orders, and enhanced client satisfaction. The terms were generous, designed to demonstrate value rather than maximize short-term profits. "We'll need some time to review your proposal and check references," Robert said as we gathered our materials. "This is exactly the kind of solution we've been seeking, but we want to ensure we're making the right decision for the company's future." Marcus and I exchanged business cards with the family, maintaining our professional personas as we scheduled follow-up communications and departure from the office. The entire interaction felt like an elaborate performance, though the underlying business discussion had been entirely genuine. Walking to our car in the Rodriguez construction parking lot, I felt a mixture of triumph and anticipation. The hardest part of our plan had succeeded beyond our expectations. My parents had taken Meridian seriously as a business solution, evaluating our proposal on its merits, rather than dismissing it based on preconceived notions about technology or young entrepreneurs. "That went perfectly," Marcus said as we drove away from the office. "They're definitely interested. Your father seemed particularly impressed by the cost savings potential." The next phase of our plan would be more challenging. Over the following weeks, we needed to maintain our professional facade while Rodriguez Construction conducted their due diligence review. James Patterson would verify our client references, investigate our company's financial stability, and analyze our proposal against competing alternatives. Diana Chen proved invaluable during this period, using her business connections to ensure that references for Meridian Tech Solutions would be positive and comprehensive. Our existing clients were genuinely satisfied with the platform's performance, making it easy to provide testimonials that highlighted our capabilities and reliability. The verification process also revealed information about Rodriguez Construction's situation that confirmed how desperate their circumstances had become. James Patterson's inquiries suggested the company was evaluating technology solutions as part of a broader restructuring plan designed to restore client confidence and secure emergency funding from potential investors. "Your parents are facing a deadline," Diana explained during one of our strategy sessions. "They need to demonstrate operational improvements within 90 days or risk losing their primary lending relationship. Meridian isn't just a nice-to-have upgrade for them, it's potentially the difference between survival and bankruptcy." The timeline added urgency to our efforts while also providing leverage for the eventual revelation. Rodriguez Construction needed Meridian more than Meridian needed Rodriguez Construction, a reversal of the power dynamic that had defined my relationship with the family business throughout my childhood. 3 weeks after our initial presentation, James Patterson called to schedule a contract signing meeting. Rodriguez Construction had completed their evaluation and decided to proceed with Meridian's pilot program, citing our cost-effectiveness, industry specialization, and proven track record with similar companies. "We're particularly impressed with your team's understanding of construction operations," he explained. "Your proposal addressed specific challenges that larger software companies didn't even recognize as problems." The contract signing was scheduled for a Friday afternoon in late January, with Robert, Linda, and James Patterson representing Rodriguez Construction, while Marcus and I would finalize the agreement as Meridian Tech Solutions leadership team. The meeting would also include Tyler and Madison, who had been invited to observe the proceedings as part of their education about family business operations. I hadn't seen my siblings since Christmas, when family conversations had focused entirely on Tyler's football achievements and Madison's dance performances while carefully avoiding any discussion of the company's financial struggles. Their presence at the contract signing suggested that my parents wanted them to witness what they hoped would be a turning point in Rodriguez Construction's recovery. The conference room was more crowded for the contract signing, with additional chairs arranged to accommodate everyone involved in the proceedings. Tyler and Madison sat against the wall, looking mildly interested, but clearly unclear about the significance of the software implementation they were observing. Marcus and I arrived precisely on time, dressed professionally and carrying the signed contracts that would formalize our business relationship with Rodriguez Construction. The preliminary documents had been reviewed and approved by both parties, leaving only the final signatures and implementation planning to complete. "Before we proceed with signatures," I said as everyone settled into their seats, "there's something important that Meridian Tech Solutions needs to disclose about our company's background and leadership structure." The statement created immediate attention from everyone in the room. James Patterson looked concerned, probably wondering if we were about to reveal some legal complication that could affect the contract. Robert and Linda appeared puzzled, unsure why additional disclosure would be necessary at this stage of the process. Tyler and Madison seemed more alert, perhaps sensing that something unusual was about to occur. Meridian Tech Solutions is proud to be a family-owned business, I continued, maintaining eye contact with my father. Our CEO brings unique expertise to construction technology solutions, having spent years learning the industry from the ground up, gaining practical experience with project management, client relations, and operational efficiency. Robert nodded, politely, probably expecting a brief biographical summary before proceeding to contract signatures. His expression remained neutral as I prepared to deliver the revelation that would transform our family dynamic forever. The CEO and founder of Meridian Tech Solutions, I announced, standing slowly for dramatic effect, is someone Rodriguez Construction knows very well. Someone who has been suggesting these exact technological improvements for years, though her recommendations weren't taken seriously at the time. The confusion in the room was palpable as everyone tried to process what I was saying. Marcus smiled slightly, knowing exactly what was coming next. Tyler and Madison looked completely bewildered, unable to imagine where this presentation was heading. Robert's expression shifted from polite attention to growing concern as he began to suspect that something significant was about to be revealed. Linda appeared similarly unsettled. Her note-taking paused as she focused entirely on my words. The CEO of Meridian Tech Solutions, I said, removing my business jacket to reveal the Rodriguez Construction t-shirt I had worn underneath, is me, Alexis Rodriguez. Your daughter. The same daughter who spent years telling you that technology could revolutionize your operations, who suggested exactly these solutions during your coordination crises, who you dismissed as impractical and unrealistic. The silence that followed was absolutely profound. Tyler's mouth actually dropped open as he processed the impossibility of what he had just learned. Madison stared at me with an expression of complete disbelief, unable to reconcile the professional presenter with her older sister, who had always been relegated to manual labor at the family business. Robert's face cycled through multiple emotions: confusion, recognition, shock, and something approaching panic as he realized the implications of what had just been revealed. Linda's carefully maintained composure cracked completely, her note-taking hand trembling as she struggled to understand how this reversal of expectations had occurred. James Patterson was the first to speak, his legal training helping him process the situation more quickly than anyone else in the room. Are you saying that Rodriguez Construction has been negotiating with your own daughter's company without realizing it? Exactly, Marcus confirmed, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. Lexi has been the driving force behind Meridian Tech Solutions since its inception. Every feature of our platform was designed based on her years of experience at Rodriguez Construction, identifying problems and developing solutions that could benefit the entire industry. The revelation continued to sink in as I provided additional details about Meridian's development and success. Our 12 paying clients, our growing revenue, our reputation within Arizona's construction community, all of it had been accomplished by the daughter they had consistently undervalued and overlooked. You built a software company? Tyler asked, his voice carrying genuine amazement. While you were still in high school? While I was working full-time at Rodriguez Construction and maintaining good grades, I confirmed. The same multitasking skills I developed here helped me manage multiple responsibilities as an entrepreneur. Madison's question was more personal and pointed. Why didn't you tell us what you were doing? The answer required honesty about family dynamics that had been carefully avoided for years. Because every time I suggested technological improvements or expressed interest in computer science, I was dismissed as impractical and unrealistic. I learned that my ideas were only taken seriously when they came from external sources rather than from the daughter who was expected to remain grateful for the opportunity to work for free. Robert finally found his voice, though it carried a shaky quality I had never heard before. Lexi, I had no idea you were capable of something like this. building a successful company, developing software that actually works, creating solutions that other businesses want to purchase. I tried to tell you, I interrupted gently. For years, I suggested exactly these improvements. But you were so convinced that I should remain focused on traditional construction methods that you never listened to what I was actually proposing. Linda's response was more emotional, tears forming in her eyes as she struggled with the realization of how profoundly they had misjudged their daughter's capabilities and ambitions. We thought we were protecting you from making impractical choices. We wanted you to have security and stability. Security and stability that you were denying me, I pointed out. While Tyler and Madison were encouraged to pursue their dreams with full family support, I was expected to sacrifice my interests for the family business. The irony is that pursuing my dreams actually created the solution your business needed for survival. The conversation that followed revealed layers of family dysfunction and missed opportunities that had accumulated over years of misguided priorities and assumptions. Tyler and Madison began asking questions about the software development process, expressing genuine interest in technical details they had never been exposed to previously. Robert's questions focused on business operations and growth potential, his entrepreneurial instincts finally recognizing the value of what I had created independently. His amazement at Meridian's success was tinged with regret as he realized how much his dismissiveness had cost both me and the family business. If we had listened to your suggestions earlier, he admitted, Rodriguez Construction might never have faced these financial problems. We could have been ahead of the technology curve instead of scrambling to catch up. The acknowledgement represented a fundamental shift in his understanding of both technology's role in construction and my capabilities as a business strategist. For the first time in our relationship, he was recognizing me as someone with valuable insights rather than simply useful labor. James Patterson raised practical questions about how the family relationship would affect the business contract, but I assured him that Meridian Tech Solutions operated as an independent company with professional standards and client commitments. Our success with other construction companies proved that we delivered results regardless of personal relationships. Actually, I said, retrieving additional documents from my briefcase, there's one more surprise. Meridian Tech Solutions is prepared to offer Rodriguez Construction something beyond software implementation. The additional proposal outlined a strategic partnership that would make Rodriguez Construction our flagship client and regional implementation partner. Instead of simply licensing our software, they could become part of our growth strategy, sharing revenue from new clients while accessing advanced features and priority support. You're offering to save our company and make us partners in your success? Linda asked, still struggling to process the complete reversal of family dynamics that had occurred during the meeting. I'm offering to work together as equals, I clarified. Rodriguez Construction has industry expertise and client relationships. Meridian has technology solutions and growth potential. Together, we could build something more successful than either company could achieve independently. The partnership proposal represented more than business strategy. It was an invitation for our family to rebuild relationships based on mutual respect rather than assumed hierarchy. For the first time, my parents were being asked to value my contributions as equals rather than expecting continued sacrifice for their benefit. Tyler and Madison exchanged glances that suggested they were beginning to understand how dramatically the family power structure had shifted. Their sister, who had been working while they pursued their interests, had quietly built something more impressive than anything they had imagined possible. The contract signing proceeded with a mixture of professional formality and family emotional processing. Rodriguez Construction would implement Meridian's platform while exploring the strategic partnership that could benefit both companies. More importantly, our family would begin rebuilding relationships based on recognition of everyone's actual capabilities rather than predetermined assumptions about worth and potential. As we gathered our materials and prepared to leave the conference room, Robert approached me with an expression that mixed pride with apology. "Lexi, I owe you more than an apology. I owe you recognition for everything you've accomplished despite our failure to support your dreams." The acknowledgement meant more than any business success could have provided. For years, I had sought family approval and recognition that seemed impossible to achieve. The revelation of Meridian's success had finally created the respect and equality I had always deserved. Walking out of Rodriguez Construction that day, I felt the completion of a journey that had begun with childhood frustration and evolved into adult achievement. The daughter who had been expected to remain forever grateful for the opportunity to serve others had instead created opportunities that could serve everyone. Tyler and Madison called me that evening, wanting to understand more about entrepreneurship and technology development. Their curiosity represented the beginning of authentic sibling relationships based on mutual interest rather than assumed hierarchy. Robert and Linda scheduled a family dinner to discuss both the business partnership and the personal changes needed to rebuild trust and respect within our family. The conversation would be difficult, but it would also be honest in ways that had never been possible before. Sometimes the greatest success isn't measured by financial achievement or business recognition, but by the courage to pursue your dreams despite those who doubt your potential. Sometimes the most powerful validation comes not from proving others wrong, but from proving yourself right. And sometimes the best revenge against those who underestimate you is succeeding so completely that they have no choice but to ask for your help. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.